Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Next, we continue with the exercise. Do it number 2. So, KC Company has 5 activity cost pools and 2 products. Okay, you have 5 activity cost pools and you have 2 products. It expects to produce 200,000 units of its automobile scissors jack and 80,000 units of its truck hydraulic jack. So having identified its activity cost pools and the cost drivers for each cost pool, KC Company accumulated the following data relative to those activity cost pools and cost drivers. So you have this one annual overhead data. You have all the activity cost pools, and then these activity cost pools, you have 5 activities, and the company already identified to you the cost driver. And this one is the estimated overhead. So you have a 5.3 million ringgit here. So that means you have all the costs for each of your activity cost pool. And then you have 2 products. Okay, you have the scissors jacks and hydraulic jacks. And then the total of the cost drivers per activity that you have. So these are the costs, and then these are the activity, the cost drivers. The cost drivers. So in total, you have 2,500 orders for the purchase order. So for the activity is ordering and receiving. And then the cost driver is purchase order. This is the cost, the overhead cost, and this is the number of orders, the total number of orders. If you were to split this one to scissors jack and hydraulic jack, so that will be 1,000 for scissors jacks and 1,500 for hydraulic jack. So total 1,000 plus 1,005 give you 2,500 orders. So for setup, the total cost for machine setup is 600,000 ringgit. And then in total, you have 1,200 setups. That means that consists of 500 plus 700. Okay, so you will have 1,200. So it's the same thing for machining, assembly, and inspecting and testing. So what is it that you need to do? So you are required to prepare a schedule showing the computations of the activity-based overhead rates per cost driver, and then prepare a schedule assigning each activity's overhead cost to the 2 products, and then compute the overhead cost per unit for each product and comment on the comparative overhead cost per unit. So let's do it one by one together. First one is we need to prepare a schedule showing the computation of the ABC rate per cost driver. So based on the question, this one is the question just now. And then we need to prepare a schedule showing the computation of the activity-based overhead rates per cost driver. So you have this one, the activity, and then you have the estimated overhead. The estimated overhead is here, already given to you in the question. And then you need to divide by the expected use of the cost driver per activity. This one is also being given to you, right? This one is the total cost drivers. So in this case, you're ordering and receiving, the cost is 200,000 ringgit. So you divide by 2,500 orders. That will give you 80 ringgit per order. This one is known as the activity-based overhead rate. So you just take this one divided by your expected use of the cost driver. So you will get the activity-based overhead rate. So you do for machine setup, the same thing. That will be 600 divided by 600,000 divided by 1,200 setups. So that will give you 500 ringgit per setup. So you do for machining. So machining will be 2 million. So 2 million divided by 800,000 hours. So that will give you 2 ringgit and 50 cent per machine hour. Okay, per hour. And then for assembly, that will be 1.8 million divided by 3 million. So that give you 60 cent per part. And then you do for the same thing for your inspecting and testing. That will be 700 divided by 35. So that will give you 20 ringgit per test. The total of it remains the same, okay? Whether you are using the traditional method or you are using the activity-based costing method, the total of it remains the same. Just that how you split the cost into the activity. So in this case, the total of it is 5.3 million. And then the next step that you need to do is you need to part B of the question. Yes, part B of the question requires you to prepare a schedule assigning each activity's overhead cost to the two products. So you have already identified this one, the rates. Okay, you already identified the rates. Then you can use the rate to calculate for each of your product. So let's say if you are taking 4 scissors jacks, that will be 80 ringgit per order times with 1,000 orders. And then this one for machine setup, that will be 500 ringgit per setup times 500 setups that you have. And then you do the same thing for all the rest of it. So this one, this figure need to you need to times with all these figures respectively, right? So you will get for your scissors jack, so that will be 1,000 times 80 just now give you 80,000 ringgit. And then all this one, the machine setup, the 500. So you take all this divided by the overhead activity-based overhead rates that you already work out. So you will get the total assigned cost as 2.56 million ringgit. Okay, and then you do the same thing for your hydraulic jack. So the rate remains the same. You take the rate and then you times with the cost driver, the usage of the cost driver for your hydraulic jacks. So for hydraulic jacks, for example, for ordering and receiving, so that will be 1,500 times your 80. So that will give you 120,000. So you do for the rest of it. So that will give you a total cost of 2.74 million ringgit. So if you total this up, 2.560 plus 2.740 million, so you will get back 5.3 million. This is the total amount of overhead. So the total amount of overhead remains the same, okay? Remains the same. Okay, but you do not know how much for scissors jack, how much for hydraulic jacks. Then you can work out per unit. So based on divided by the number of units that you have produced. So part C requires you to compute the overhead cost per unit for each product. So that is the total cost assigned divided by the total unit produced. So the total unit produced given in the question for your scissors jack is 200,000 and for your hydraulic jack it is 80,000. So you just divide this one, then you will get the overhead cost per unit. So for scissors jack, the overhead cost per unit is 12 ringgit and 80 cent, while for your hydraulic jack it is 34.25. Next, the question asks you to comment on the comparative overhead cost per unit. So this data shows that the total overhead assigning to 80,000 hydraulic jacks exceeds the overhead assigned to 200,000 scissors jack. So the overhead cost per hydraulic jack is 34.25. So it is only 12.8 per unit for the scissors jack. So that is basically how you calculate the overhead cost per unit. If the question asks you to calculate the cost per unit, so you just follow the same step to calculate based on the products that you have. All right, so hopefully you have a better understanding by doing this exercise. So with that, I thank you.